And today's guest has been with me a few times. I feel like we have a series because cyber stalking and stalking in general is always such a big issue in this community. And so we love having him on. He, I think, is one of the best. And there he is. Let me get you on here, Vance. So since he was last on, there's been all kinds of new stuff happening. Hi, Vance.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing all right. It's busy, obviously, just like you guys know,
Yeah.
and everybody watching knows.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot has happened since the last time you were on, and there's always cyber issues.
Oh,
So
new things every day, literally.
I know. Okay, so I know there were like, we came up with a little list of things to talk about, and you're also very good at fielding questions as they come. So for anyone watching, if you have questions about cyber security, cyber stalking, just throw them out there. But I thought the artificial intelligence is changing everything. To me, it's changing the concept of truth. And how do we know what's real anymore?
It's changing a lot. It's one of those double-edged coins because it can be used proactively, it can be used in positive ways, but it's also being used in a lot of ways to target and help automate a lot of the attacks that are going on, not just in like AI generated photos and things of that nature that can be used in abusive areas, but like um, helping automate the cyber attacks and the ransomware attacks that are happening on critical infrastructure points. Really, like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned to you in the email back and forth about the courts in Kansas that have been down for 3 weeks.
All right,
You
let's
know,
talk about that. Go into what's happened in Kansas in the courts and how it affects
well,
us.
it affects one of the things, as everybody here knows, is that using the courts as an abusive system to prolong cases. I mean, your clients, everybody watching this, are very familiar with that. But what's happened in Kansas is about 3 weeks ago, we had it's been undisclosed as to what the cause was, a security incident that has led to the online portals for all the courts being shut down. So everything's having to be filed hard copies. Paper copies are having to be sent to the judges, and a system that they phased out decades ago, is having to be reinstituted overnight. And the reason they phased it out then was because it wasn't efficient. So we're seeing longer delays, problems with the filings, which will lead to someone who's abusing the system. Oh, well, this is great for me because I don't have, we're taking longer just with the processes. Um, it They haven't disclosed what the cause was, but it does have all the hallmarks of a ransomware attack.
Mhm.
Um, and this is something that we're seeing more and more, especially on public buildings. Without quite frankly. Oh, also the update on the real quick. The update from the Judicial Committee in Kansas was they were asking when they can expect to have the system back online, and the IT committee chair is we don't. I don't think it'll be a year. So what you're seeing is a court system that's already, as we know, struggling, now being
Overburden.
overloaded. It's also, taxpayer dollars went to build a system and now it's not usable, and things of that nature. And when we talk about that, because you hear it in the news all the time now, you're like, the ransomware attack on this one, a lot of clients too are also dealing with domestic violence issues. We see that a lot as well. These targets aren't just limited to the courts. They're targeting police departments who are investigating those cases. The San Bernardino sheriff in California paid $1.1 million to get access to their files back. They're targeting the attorneys who, because they're automated now. One of the things that we will tell you is the new statistic is that a ransomware attack happens every 11 seconds. So, while we're doing this interview, depending on how long we're here, that's going to be about 327 ransomware attacks that'll happen just while we're having the conversation today.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
So what is it? What is in terms of like our sensitive information, the record?
Well, that's what you.
What is that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what does that mean? Like, how are we affected? It's
Well,
terrifying.
because you think about in family law specifically, you just mentioned in one of the other postings about the finances are being sorted out. So all that information is in these proceedings, is in these documents. So, one of the things, it's election day. A lot of judges across the country and DAs across the country are elected. We need to be asking them, what are you doing to protect us? Are you using password managers? Do you have two-factor authentication in the court system, in the police departments? Even with a private attorney, if you're going to work choosing an attorney, because that attorney the law firms are being targeted as well. Because when it comes to like some of the things you have, you think about if you're doing financial separation, a credit card details with an account that a balance that goes up to $5,000. If they have that sells for about $240. So if you have multiple family law practices where you have multiple credit cards listed in all those cases, you're talking, two cards, and it's almost $500. And the cost to target the ransomware attacks has gone down. The average cost for a ransomware campaign now is less than $1,000. So I get 4 cards out of that. I've made my money back. As a criminal. So I say, when you're discussing it with your attorney, what methods are you using? Are you using a password manager in the office? Do you have 2-factor authentication enabled? Is my data stored on an encrypted drive or an encrypted at rest? Those are questions I would ask when I'm speaking to the attorney about my divorce. Or I've already hired one. I would go, hey, we need to ask some questions about how this is being done.
We have a chapter in our book that came out earlier this year about choosing the right attorney, and there's certain questions to ask. And this is one if we were doing a revised version, it's too soon, but that would be a great question to ask. And who would ever think of asking something like that?
Well, a lot of if you're working with a larger law firm too, they may have a corporate section, so they're specifically could be targeted for corporate intellectual property. But when you're looking at family law, you've got all of these financial records, medical records, in some cases, maybe even psychological records that have been filed.
Definitely.
So you're talking about a wealth of, as they say, data is the new oil. At $240 a credit card, a New York driver's license scan goes for $80.
Who is buying? When you say goes for, like, who is buying this?
So what we do is cyber criminals. If I'm a criminal, I'm buying those cards so I could open fraudulent accounts. If I can get a U.S. selfie of someone holding their ID, that goes for $100. We're on Instagram. A hacked Instagram account right now on the dark web goes for $45 because I can use that account to hack more accounts. I can use that as an established, and that's not even one with like 10,000 followers. That's just a garden variety Instagram account. So there's a lot here that goes into play. It's another thing too is this is overwhelming, especially for someone who's not going through an abusive relationship ending or trying to get out of one. This is overwhelming for people who are like, I thought I had everything together.
Right.
So that's a topic that is, and that's one of the things that we've tried to do, even with our trainings and our consulting, is we've started to look at cybersecurity as almost a literacy project. There's no shame in asking this question. There's no silly questions. If you don't understand something, we recently worked on a new series of guides that is written without any technical jargon to help just the average person. But we look at those things. We look at, like, you're dealing with narcissists. So if I have an attorney that's representing someone who's fighting a narcissist, you could do what they call a denial of service attack and target that law firm's website. They'll do that where it'll run 10 to 15,000 requests to take that site down per second, and for a month of that, it costs about $1,000. So you could actually target the firm and jeopardize their income stream by taking their website down. And you don't, as you've seen with narcissists and these high conflict divorces, some people $1,000 isn't a lot of money.
No, not at all.
To get back,
because it's often the other side that has lots of money, and they're always coming up with new ways to cause destruction because they don't care about just finishing the case. The goal is engagement.
Yeah.
And harming the other party.
And we've seen that too with domestic violence cases, like with the sheriff's department in California. Once all that evidence that was stored on those servers is now compromised, all those cases are going to be thrown out. So if you're dealing with a protective order or actual criminal case against someone for domestic violence, and you're counting on that in the family court to help with custody or something else, that could get thrown out if the police department is compromised.
Oh my gosh. So everything, like all of the evidence and years worth of records, that's just thrown out on procedural technicalities.
It could have been the digital chain of custody would be jeopardized. So it doesn't have to actually be deleted. It just has have the reasonable doubt that it could have been compromised.
Because the
They
criminal.
broke the digital chain of custody. Yeah, for criminal. So we look at that so that's one of the things we're doing is working with police departments and judges and the court systems and the district attorneys and the private attorneys to really protect the legal system as a whole, because as the international, the more volatility in the international realm, this is the way you destabilize a country: is you freeze up the courts and you make it so that people don't get prosecuted. And this was your clients getting caught up in a global conflict at that level, as a bystander, and that's why we look at that as well. But I would have several questions to talk with the attorneys. The other one we talked about last time, to kind of segue, is the vehicles, the automakers.
Yes.
As
Yes.
the attorney, do you do work calls from your phone? Do you do work calls from your car? Because with the new data collection reports about the automakers from the US, they record and store those conversations on the servers in the automakers. So you can't guarantee confidentiality as an attorney if you're having conversations in a vehicle.
Is the article that you sent me, it said that about 84% of car companies are sharing your data. Uh-oh. Oh no. My phone is spinning. I hope this interview doesn't get cut off. Vance, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It glitched for a second.
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
so 84%.
every one of the US automakers sells not only the data they collect, but the data that they infer from the data that they collect. So they could infer that you're about to file bankruptcy, or they could infer that they could infer sexual activity, sexual orientation, and they have the right, due to their privacy policy, to sell that data.
So this is from your conversations in your car on your phone, or is there other ways, or is it just with you talking?
Conversations in the car, on the phone, any internal cameras would record video as well as audio. The Subaru's privacy policy states that if you connect your phone via Bluetooth to a Subaru, you've agreed to the privacy policy. So you don't even have to own the vehicle to have that information taken from you.
So you think about rental cars. Like whenever we travel and we rent a car, we often connect to Bluetooth, and sometimes you can see the history of all the people who connected.
And you can go and delete your phone from the screen, but you can't wipe it from the computer, the inboard computer of the car. So like now, if you're selling a vehicle from a custody dispute, you're divvying up and you're like, hey, we're going to sell this vehicle and split the money per our divorce. You need to take that vehicle down and have that computer wiped of all your personal data, because the next person that buys that vehicle could have access to all of that data that's on there from you.
And that's interesting, because a lot of times in these difficult cases, one party keeps the car. So it's almost something that could be weaponized. Like, I'll buy the car from you like it's favored, but they're not just getting the transportation, they're getting all the access to your conversations. It's almost like they're getting into your email account.
All the locations that you drove to, anything that happened. That's one of the things that we look at is now in your order. If you're going to buy the car out, one of the parts you're going to add to that order is, we need to go down and have the computer wiped. I want my data removed from that vehicle.
Oh, my God. This is so helpful. And I've never heard this before.
This report just came out last month. In fact, I will give you the link that you can share, that you can go to the website, and it has it broken down by report for each individual automakers. So if you have a Chevrolet or a Toyota, whatever, you can go read the actual report from that auto manufacturer. But they asked Mercedes what they do with the data, and this applies to like the attorneys. And Mercedes said that it's impossible to give a universal answer.
So I'm not telling.
Yeah, so we're not gonna go into detail, because we can't give you one answer to it. And the problem is also the storage of these data. Lexus is a perfect example. For the last 12 years, their security for the companies themselves is very low. For the last 12 years, Lexus had a breach that they were not aware of, and every Lexus in Japan the real-time location data of that vehicle was exposed for the last decade, and Lexus had no idea that they were exposing this data. So that's where the 0 days come into play. Is they're accumulating this data for the car companies, but they don't know if it's even protected, because they don't know if they have a problem. That's where some of the problems come in as well too. Um, is it's just problematic. I think there's probably eventually going to be some very serious litigation or stress put on the automakers for this,
I'm
and rightly
thinking
so.
like how old a car can I get that doesn't have all this?
Well,
Cars
if you
before when?
probably at this point, if it anything that doesn't have Bluetooth, so you're
Okay.
looking for a CD player.
CD player. Okay.
The joke was that the last car that was made without a computer on board is a 1985 Ford Bronco.
Wow.
Now, that's not that all these, especially the newer ones, have more because you've got backup cameras. You've got the camera that looks down and gives you the overhead view. You've got
Yeah.
internal cameras for video calls. So there's a lot of obviously the more bells and whistles, but some of them don't even have an opt-out policy. Some of them, like Tesla, if you have a Tesla will tell you that if you opt out of data collection, the vehicle may not work properly and could shut
I
down
saw
altogether.
that. So if you don't let your data just go wherever, if you don't give up your privacy, then your car's not going to function.
Yeah, exactly. And we think of our vehicles as a private space, especially someone who's going through a difficult relationship. And I can't, maybe I'm not safe and I don't feel comfortable having conversations in the house. So I'm going to go make calls in the car. I'm going to go for a drive to de-stress myself. And maybe I call my friend and vent a little bit. Those are problems, those are problems because the vehicles that we assume, maybe I call my doctor from the vehicle, you know, or my psychiatrist or something, that could happen. Those are problematic conversations to have, especially in newer vehicles.
Like I'm thinking, but if the car is off, then
Uh, that just like with a phone, that doesn't make as much of a difference. Like when you have your phone down, like if you have an Alexa or smart device in your home, it's constantly waiting for you to call a lot of times, and there can still be data collection that happens while the vehicle's off because you would essentially have to like disconnect the battery to disconnect the computer. Um,
oh,
at that point, we're still learning about the extent of this because, like I said, this is relatively new. Really, only happened within a month in the last month. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a major issue for everybody. I was speaking to some judges about that, and they literally were doing a presentation, and I saw phones go to the deck, and they were like, "Excuse me," and I was like, "Yeah, if you're a law firm and your policy may be now, we have no work calls done from vehicles. If you're a partner, you're telling the associates don't make work calls from the vehicle. We can't assure client because if that breach happens for Mercedes and you find all these client conversations there, you potentially could have breached confidentiality.
wow,
So now you're looking at
amazing.
potentially your license to practice law. Same thing with the ransomware attack. If you're breaching, did you do everything you needed to protect? We talk about two-factor authentication all the time. They've been telling us for a decade that we need to be using it. So if you're sued in a data breach and they're like, well, did your employees have two-factor authentication implemented? And you're like, no, you're probably not going to win that one.
Oh boy.
you know,
This
so
is mind blowing. I'm like, but what can we do? I mean, so yes, let's not have conversations in the car.
yeah.
And
Well, the first thing that we would do is we would go through and just basic digital hygiene stuff. We have on different levels. Like I said, we have an intensive for attorneys that takes about 4 weeks. We do one meeting every 4 weeks. Um, that helps them implement everything from password manager policy, two-factor authentication, encrypted data at rest security to store that, their Wi-Fi network if they're working remotely or in the office, especially solo firms. A lot of solo firms have those issues. I'm a solo practicing attorney. I don't have an IT team. Um, so we work with the attorneys in that aspect. We do a personal course for individuals where they can come through and just do it. And we do one that's it's 3 hours. We do a 1 hour on password management, 1 hour on two-factor, and then a 1 hour follow-up class where we say, hey, Lisa, did you have any hiccups? What did you notice that was a problem for you? Just to kind of catch up and see. And then we've even gone so far for some people like I said, I mentioned earlier in the lower portion, because it is such an overwhelming subject, we've started a PDF series called Cybersecurity for Everyone. It's what we call an evergreen PDF. So if you buy it today and we update it tomorrow, you will get an email saying, "You please download the newest version." So that way, you're always because that's the other issue with this is there's a shelf life.
yeah. Uh-oh. Frozen again. It's spinning. All right, Vance, I don't know if you can hear me, but there is a,
Oh, sorry, I froze again.
yep, you froze. It's still
There we
spinning.
go.
I now it came
Okay.
back. Okay, finish what you were going to say, and then I want to mention a comment here.
Okay. Yeah. No. We created a PDF guide series that's designed for the layman. No technical terms. It's a walkthrough. You know, anyone can do it of any age. You don't need any. If you can use an online account, you can use it. We released the password manager guide last month. The two-factor authentication guide is coming out this month. There's a bundle option if you go to our Instagram page. You can find actually you can go to the Instagram link and find our consultation section and all the classes and the all the trainings and the PDFs. And what's your comment?
Yeah. Okay, but that's great because we're always getting questions about that, and I'm always telling people to find you because I don't know the answer. Um, oh no, it's freezing again. It's interesting that this now we're having these technical glitches
Yeah. Sorry.
during. No, that's okay. I was saying it's interesting we're having technical glitches during an educational uh, conversation about
Yes.
privacy and cybersecurity.
What was your question was we're not all and then it stopped on me.
Okay, all right. So I'm looking at a comment above. It says, and I'm thinking about my own situation. This might be slightly relevant, and maybe, but when I was separating from my narcissistic ex, I took the Alexas I bought and put them in my apartment. They were able to, quote, drop in and listen to what I was doing. And this makes me think of with my ex-husband. He sent gifts to our kids. I forgot what they were called, not Alexa, but some other thing. And my friend, this was years ago, my friend was like, do not put those in your house at all. I didn't, but when I contacted Amazon to try to return them, they were like, no, 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 he kept the rights to it, so you can't
You can't
do
do it.
anything with
Yeah,
it.
we've seen that
Wow.
with unsecured ring doorbells being used from a neighbor to monitor people. I think we mentioned that before.
Yeah,
Um, there,
talk about it again because it was insane.
well, if your neighbor hasn't changed the master password on their ring doorbell, it's easy to access that and watch your house from there. Um, there's a whole network. It's a search engine that allows you to look for um, unsecured video cameras. In fact, there's an artist in a Dutch artist who has taken Instagram influencers, found selfies, and then accessed the open source cameras to find the exact video of the exact moment that selfie was taken.
I remember you sent me that. I saw that.
They also have he also did an amazing one that used AI that we talked about earlier to monitor all of the Dutch parliament. And anytime someone spent more than a few seconds on their phone, it would tag them to Instagram saying they were on their phone and they were distracted from doing their job. Uh, so they said AI is a double-edged sword. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we don't realize because, I mean, smart TVs are another one. Yeah, if you haven't changed the master pass, these are things we also go over in the classes, but you have to change the master password on the television, or you can access. A lot of them have cameras now. You know, it could be your laptop camera. It could be, it could be the smart television, the smart thermostat. You know, smart light bulbs these days. You know, try to find a device that hasn't gone that way because of the data collection industry. That's what is driving the smart devices. Is the money in data collection.
Oh my gosh. Okay, somebody asked the question, is all of this information admissible in court?
Which information?
I'm, I'm
The
guessing,
cars?
yeah, like let's just say your ex gets a hold of your conversations with your lawyer. I don't know how. Through the data collection, they get a hold of it and they say, I'm going to prove that my ex was talking about this, that, and the other thing. Can they use it, even though I would think that they obtained it by illegal means?
Well, no. If you buy, you can purchase that data. You can set up a company sells a data broker and purchase that data from them. Because that's the thing is that the automakers are selling this data.
So it's
They're
not
not just collecting it.
illegal.
They're selling. It's not illegal. It's not illegal. It's not illegal to collect marketing data, location data. I know that they went to this place because that's one of the things with phones. It takes not very much money to set up a a purchasing company to purchase data on a cell phone location. So you could literally have a track of everywhere in real time, where that person was. Um, these are not the bar for this is becoming lower and lower, and um, if it's data that was purchased through a data broker, I can't give legal advice. So I would ask one of the attorneys to answer that. But if it's illegally purchased data that you agreed to the company could collect, and that person agreed to purchase, and that they could collect and be sold, and someone purchases that data, I don't see why that wouldn't be it. Like I said, I'm not an attorney, but I would need clarification on that. But I don't see any reason why it couldn't be.
So you have a Tesla, you have to agree to the privacy policy, which is to collect your data.
Yeah.
And then it's so or your car doesn't work.
Yeah.
So you have no privacy in your car.
Essentially, that's one of the biggest, the automakers, the company that did the reviews and the study, they do this on several sectors, and the automaker section was by far the worst privacy violators of any company that they've done so far done the research on. Literally, not one U.S. automaker passed, or not one automaker that sells vehicles in the United States passed. There were
Yeah.
two, but neither that did have better policies, but neither of them sells vehicles in the United States.
Yeah, I saw that. Europe.
Because of the EU, that's another thing, is we have to be, with everything that's divisive that's going on here, politically speaking, back to election day, local elections matter. How is the district attorney and the judges, are they protecting us? But also, we have to get back out of that political divisiveness and say, look, how is our privacy being protected? Because if we're concerned with something that affects 1% of the population in Congress, but the other 100% of the population are being affected by their privacy, not having privacy for any of their digital life. That's something that we need to be discussing with both parties. We don't need to have, that's something that's problematic for everybody, because until there's a rein in on some of the data collection, or there's some type of regulation for that, cyber stalking is just going to get easier and cheaper. Like the AirTags, you buy 3 of them for $90 on Amazon now. They have a year-long battery life. The more we go through it, the easier and cheaper it gets.
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrifying. Let's talk about fake revenge porn.
Oh, that is on the rise. There are new AI websites. There's about 5 websites right now that can create either photographs, GIF images, and/or short videos based on an uploaded photo or a description, where they type in the description. There's 1 or 2 where you can actually upload the photo and then give a description of what you want happening in the video. So this is obviously it's disturbing, because everybody's got photos everywhere. It could be a scanned photo that someone had access to before you separated. It could be one they got from a social media account, a digital photo, and they're harder and harder to tell. It's something that that's something that also there's no real recourse on this aspect right now. Yeah, you can go to the courts, you can go to the attorneys and sue, but if someone makes that and sends it to your employer, you've lost your job, and the damage is already done. If you're in the middle of a custody battle and that gets thrown into case, trying to prove that it's not real, that it was fake, is also another form of abuse.
Right.
And I hate to
Yeah.
go into too much of that, because I don't want to give people ideas.
Well,
But I'm sure they've already.
it's making me think, with all the stuff that can be manipulated. I just think that people aren't going to believe anything anymore.
Well, and that's you'd already start to see questioning of things in society in general, and this kind of will throw gasoline on that fire in some ways, because someone can use it to either discredit someone or use it to justify someone, make one that justifies a falsehood, saying, well, this is true. And so it does become problematic in the long term, and learning how to spot that, learning how, those are things that we're working on, just like when we do our trainings on social engineering, and learning about how to spot a phishing email, how to spot an email that comes into Instagram that has a link that could potentially take your account over. We're going to have to, we're working to make things to learn how do I spot something that looks, it looks too good to be true most of the time. The video is just a little too perfect. There's not a blemish here in the scan. So there's certain things that do give it away. But then once again, we have to educate those in the courts and the attorneys and the legislatures, and we have to raise that awareness that this is a problem, and how do they address that? Because a lot of times we had conversations with AirTags, and we've had people on the court staff that didn't even know what an AirTag was.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making a ruling on I'm tracking the child with an AirTag and you don't know what the device is, that's problematic.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So, and we've also worked too. We're working to get that like AirTag legislation added, AirTag language added to every um, uh, restraining order, every protection order for tracking. Like the AirTag language should go in with anything else. Getting a common language that can be added to any protective order and just dropped in and saying this should be in every order. And
Mm-hmm.
then educating the judges and the attorneys to say, yes, we need this in every single one because it is such a problem.
Wow. So what can our community do? I mean, you've given a couple of things, but just sum it up again. What can we do to protect our privacy and ourselves when we always think about what's in our control, and there's a
So
lot that's not.
I would say the first thing I would do is I would go through and start protecting my accounts that I have. I would go through and delete any account that you don't use on a regular basis. If you've got an online shopping account or something that you haven't logged into in a year, you probably can delete that one. Some more poignant manners we've seen with executives is, there are people like we had executives who had false unemployment claims filed in their name. So going even to your local unemployment office and setting up your account so that you have control over it. But the main basics are update your system. If it's your phone, if it's your laptop, any device you're using, make sure it has the.
It's frozen again.
You
Sorry,
should be
Vance.
using a password
It
manager
just
on
glitched
every account.
for a second.
That we. Am I back?
Yes. Okay. So you said check with unemployment, update your system. So start with update your
Update
system.
your phone. Update your machines. Make sure your Windows laptop or whatever, when you see the screen, just let it go. Get a glass of water. Check your phone update. Make sure that you're running the current operating system on that, because there are vulnerabilities that get pushed out. Patches for vulnerabilities get pushed out all the time. Um, Use a password manager. You should not be reusing passwords anywhere. And honestly, it's not. It's if you can remember your password, it's not effective. Um, you, we're not capable of creating a truly random, complex password with the level of technology is at today. The password manager that we use in the guide is free. It's open source. It doesn't cost anything. It's very easy to use. We chose it for just that reason. Um, you should be using two-factor authentication on every account, but at the very minimum on all of your sensitive accounts, your banks, uh, anything that's if you're running a company or you have your own business, social media, that should be across the board on everything. Um, those are the three basics right there.
Okay.
And don't click on links in your emails if you don't know who it's from, or even if you do, that it could be spoofed sometimes. So don't just be careful. Um,
Yeah.
but those are the three main ones right there.
Oh my gosh, so helpful. Okay, so again, I'm going to put your link or your handle in our description, but how can people find you best besides Instagram?
Okay, well, the links take us to our website, but our website is tsg.nyc. Very simple. That's the website. You can go to there's a contact form if you want to fill out and set, especially with some of the attorneys or something, because we do ongoing relationships with them, much like an attorney or a bookkeeper. Cybersecurity is now becoming it's not a one and done. It's a quarterly, sometimes monthly,
Maintenance.
depending on it's a maintenance. Just like you would have an attorney, just like you would have an accountant, it's an ongoing process. Um,
Wow.
but those you can reach us there at the website. There's email, there's a form to fill out. Their phone number, contact information are all on the website. So also, like I said, you can go click straight to our Instagram profile, and the links there take you to the website and some of the other things as well too. So
Yeah. Every time I talk to you, I'm like, I have to do this. I have to do this. We got to do this class. So
well,
Chris is here. Take
we will
notes.
set that up. It's super easy. Like I said, we schedule it to your time. So we do the first one, then about a week or two later, we do the second one. Whatever your schedule works out, we do it virtually, so it's super easy to get knocked out. And the other thing is, you're protecting, especially with businesses like you guys and the law firms, you're protecting that company.
Yeah.
You're spending all this time putting everything in place, and that has to be protected.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, thank you so much, Vance. And I want to get a date on the calendar for us to finally do this class.
Okay, well,
We'll,
I
we'll
will I
talk
will email. We'll
off
talk
here.
offline. Well, yeah, thanks again for having me back. And anybody that has questions, they can also message us on Instagram too.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks again, and we'll do this again, I'm sure, in the next couple months.
All right, have a good
All right.
one.
You
Bye.
too. Bye.